Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the girl willing to be a scientist, and this is one comment. The other comment, and the other comment. Yeah. Then this is the other girl that already has done some work and wants to continue and get this comment that her boring science is boring, that her CV is not so cool, that she's only there because she's a woman. And then it's the kind of Gilmore Girls joke, which at some point I found it funny, but actually, if you think about it, it's not really that funny, because it is already devaluating that we were there because we were this great team. And I guess that many people in Gaia ISO are aware the tons of work that in this team we were doing for Gaia ISO. So it's not because we were women, but because we were actually suitable for that job. So there is a comment here like of this Gilmore girl that, who cares if I'm pretty if I fail my exams? So these comments that we as women listen a lot, unfortunately, are not useful. And it's not, at some point I started realizing that it's not me that had an impression and I didn't find them funny. It was not an impression, but that many women were facing the same thing. So at the end, this idea of having equal opportunities is not really there when you have to constantly kind of fight or kind of say, well, actually, I'm in full right and full to do this, and why do I have to excuse myself all the time with these kind of comments of help or just jokes? So there is an evidence that this is causing a negative impact in female career progression. There have been these studies, just as an example is the telescope time, that there was this difference in who gets observing time. In Hubble proposals was similar. And now we are starting to see the effect because of this. There was a problem. What was scientists like to see this not as perceptions, but with numbers. And this kind of works study showed the numbers of the problem behind this implicit bias. And then solutions are being worked out. So in the case of these cases of the telescope time, the solution to make it blind has already proven to be very useful because it is already getting to a more fair competition. The numbers, I think, that have changed after that a little bit, but at least now it is there is not at least the problem of the bias, but other things to address. So the competition is safer. And when you read about this, one of the or when you kind of started understanding a little bit what's going on, the issue of the role model becomes super important. Here I'm putting a quote from Katia Cunha that she sent for the book that I will now explain. But it happens that role models are super important. So when there are few of some kind, say women or maybe people from other backgrounds, at some positions, then people that are younger don't see themselves represented, and then they take more seriously all these silly jokes about why are you strange or something. And role models don't need to be necessarily scientists, role models, or you can get inspired by comments from many people that may say something that makes sense to you. And I'm citing here a comment that I heard in a movie that I saw from MIA, that she said that if she has the microphone in her hand and people are going to listen to her, then she wants to say something meaningful. And that comment was resonating when I wrote this book. So that book was published at the beginning of this year. It's a book about Gaia, actually. One of the kind of scientific motivations, it's in a Spanish book, is that there are a few books in Spanish about astronomy, and the Chilean public doesn't have access to books in other language necessarily. And in Chile particularly, it happens that people know a lot about astronomy. They are super keen in knowing more about astronomy because of all the telescopes that are here. But when you tell them about Gaia, they have no idea because Gaia is not happening in Chile, it's happening in space, and it is led in Europe, so they think that this is not relevant. So the book kind of explains why Gaia is such a revolution, even for the science, and that is done through the telescopes in Chile. But then I had to think about the MIA's comments, and I also had to think that if I am having the opportunity to write something that people will read, then I also want to write something more meaningful, and don't stick only to kind of the science that Gaia is doing. And I wanted actually in this book to show that science is more than just facts. Like, okay, this is how stars work, this is what we have discovered, this is what is going on. But I wanted to also show that the science is also kind of a mix of human struggle, and there is a lot of support between people in order to understand the problems and live in the scientific community. And that kind of came together with my own perceptions of feeling that there were some unfair biases towards women, and I wanted also, like in my own experience, that when you talk to journalists, it's that they have the impression that you are the only woman fighting against all the men, and that is not true. There are a lot of women out there. I mean, we see here in this meeting that there is a lot. So that kind of a scientific challenge is not something for men, and also that there are a lot of women doing science, and we are not strange and we are not weird. So I wanted to also reflect that in the book. So what I did was to contact lots of women, also because when I was writing about the different topics that are related to the Milky Way and Gaia, there were so many works that were not mine, and I didn't want to attribute for these works. I had to think about all these other contemporary women that are doing all this work. So I will show you here a movie that we did at the end for promoting the book. So I hope that you can see it. Let me see. It was translated yesterday for you.
Este libro no está solamente escrito por mí. Este libro también tiene las voces de otras 40 mujeres, más o menos, que son todas mujeres contemporáneas que están en este minuto en liderazgo del campo de investigación que tiene la astronomía galáctica, que es el tema central del libro. Y la motivación de incluirlas es un poco mostrar que hoy en día hay una gran variedad de personas detrás de la ciencia, y que dentro de esa gran variedad hay muchas mujeres. Y estas son todas colegas mías con las que en algún minuto en mi carrera he tenido contacto, mujeres que conozco, que de alguna u otra forma también me han inspirado a mí, y el proceso durante la pandemia de escribir el libro en conjunto con ellas también siento que le ha dado mucho valor al libro, y para mí también ha sido algo que me ha entusiasmado mucho para poder irlo escribiendo en los momentos difíciles de la pandemia. También ha sido difícil combinar la escritura de un libro con todas las otras labores que uno tiene desde la casa, porque hemos estado trabajando en la casa durante todo un año.
So yeah, so the book, I had already signed a contract with the editorial to write a book about Gaia, and then the pandemic hit, and I faced myself at home with my family, with my kids, and I had to write this book, and I had to teach, and I had to do all the other things. And I started approaching all these women because I wanted to also show that we are a lot and we are not strange. And I also wanted, and it was super nice because I got so inspired by just talking to all of them and talking about different topics. It was not only about what is your contribution in Gaia, tell me about your best result or something that you're very proud of, but also like about most human things. And I felt really empowered and super motivated, and I think that this is a great asset in this book to have all these other voices there. And then we had to put all that information that I collected in the book in a way that it wouldn't really leave the main topic of the book, which was about the science of Gaia, aside. So we made these mind maps, and and tells how complex is the situation of women in science. And it's interesting because important topic that appear many times is mentorship, which is like very much in agreement with what Edita just said. It's super important. Don't underestimate the importance of mentorship. The concept of leadership, it's also super wide and super interesting. Teamwork, the dealing with the society that is kind of still pretty much developed for men. Family, it's very important in women, and being minority, it's also sometimes an issue. So most of these comments, or some of these comments, appear in the book when I found them relevant, but many times it wasn't so easy to incorporate them. So we made also a website in which you find like the movies, like the movie that I just showed, but also some of these comments here, obviously in Spanish, because it's for Spanish for Chilean people. We made this Instagram account, and in this website there are also interviews that I found from YouTube of some of the women that are a part of this book. And all the work, like the video that you just saw, that there are a few of these videos and that are now going to be translated. So that was the first one, because I said, I'm giving this talk, so please translate one of the videos. And the website and the Instagram and everything was the result of all the travel money that I had for the pandemic that I couldn't use. I just transferred all of that for this. And I think that is a good way of using the money, giving it at least for that was possible to be done when we couldn't travel. And now I don't have money for travel, of course, because everything is very expensive, and that grant is over. Yeah, so I invite you to look at this, also because of these interviews are in English. So we put a Spotify where you can listen to them in Spanish, but there are most of them in English because there were not the women from Chile. And here I put some of the comments that are not in the website or in the book necessarily, but they have been, for me, super inspirational. One is a comment from Amina Helmi. Probably most of you know who is Amina Helmi, but for me, Amina Helmi is like a hero. So when I heard that, when she sent me that even she feels sometimes insecure, that really resonated in me. Like, oh wow, so it's not only about me, it's about, we all apparently are a bit like that. So we should just go ahead and do what we want to do, right? Because if Amina has achieved so much and she's so cool and still feels kind of insecure sometimes, then of course there is nothing wrong with me. Ola Krivi, who is also a super leader in Gaia. She's in charge of the coordinating unit 8 of the astrophysical parameters. We had she's super cool because she sent me a Zoom half an hour or 1 hour Zoom discussion about the questions. She didn't write them down, so I had to listen to it, and then I had to find ways of taking notes, and then I had to send her back, and I sent her back my response via Zoom video. It was funny. So, and one of the things that also found interesting is that now she continued working, is doing what Corinne Bailey-Jones was doing at the beginning. And Corinne Bailey-Jones is also one of these people that everyone admires, including herself. And she didn't think that she was good enough for continuing his work. And she told me that they had to convince her to apply, and now she's doing an excellent job. So of course she's fully capable and super proud that so many people trusted her, because she felt that she wasn't able to do it. Claire Woolley, who is behind the Gaia ISO survey, a good friend of mine from Cambridge, also told this interesting comment about making courses for things that then she realized that she already has. So, but you know, one should really look at the skills we have instead of the weaknesses. Jennifer Johnson, that I'm working right now because I'm a member of SDSTES, but people that have been using Apogee or SDSTES could thank her for the amazing contribution that she does in running Apogee. And yeah, she just mentioned that one of the reasons she's doing this is because of all the amount of women that are doing cool stuff here. So feeling representative and attracted to do this, it's super important. Again, the idea of a role model. And yeah, and what I wanted actually to say in the book, we are a lot, and it is normal, and it is fine, and I don't know why then there is this idea that we are not so many. There is something strange in how science is communicated, that the public has the impression that we are not that many. We are still fewer than men, but it's not that we are kind of 1 out of 1,000. No? And there are women in this field.
Paula, so
sorry?
we are out of time, so please.
Okay, so this is the last slide. So there are you know, cool women doing cool stuff, and then it's interesting how they operate by thanking each other. So this is a work, one of the important works of the last couple of years, led by these 3 ladies here, and they put at the end this this acknowledgement in the paper, how they have been encouraged by other women doing this. So I finish here with a kind of conclusion. I think that it's important to have a network of people, to trust everyone's struggles. So I think that we should not hide the struggle. And yeah, people need support. And I think that making it more inclusive and balanced anyway means commitment and risk. And that is not easy. So as a big team, sometimes becoming more inclusive and balanced, it requires some time and some effort. And we have to also acknowledge that it's not always easy and nice as it seems. So I finish here, and I just leave you again the Instagram account of the book. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paula. We have time for 1 or 2 questions or comments. Nicholas Walton says that it is an inspirational talk.
Thanks, Nick. A lot of this has been inspired by the work in Cambridge, so.
Great. So yeah, that's true that we have to speak more to each other and share our experiences, because we can help each other very, very much. So I agree that this kind of blog you are leading is a good way to do that, Paula. So thank you very much again, and let's